It's just, it's great. It's a really simple. You guys using assistant actually, the end of the page. This is a Zoom platform for your video. Is that what you guys are using?
We use Zoom webinar because we have more control. Are you able to get in?
Yeah, you're gonna have to mute because that's what we get. Because you're feeding back through. There you go. You got it. That's why we set up the 2 separate mics. We had all kinds of feedback going today. It sounded like a rock concert.
Boy, I missed those.
Is Mr. King still alive? Is he?
Mr. King is. He's I just talked to him on my way up here. He's the most proficient 70-year-old I've ever seen. So he gets he uses it like a laptop. So I called him and he said, hold on a second, I'm on a Zoom call. Put a Zoom call. So he's turned down the volume of the Zoom call so he can chit chat.
He can Zoom call at the same time as talking on the phone.
Well, he might be his, I can't tell whether he was
He's on
at home on his computer. No, he's well. He's I mean, text messages from, 6 months, everything from comic strips to law articles to work stuff, all the way through the evening. So he's I've never seen somebody what they do. Like it's a profession. Right? You people just love just
Everyone is here.
Okay. Oh, yes, it's time. Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. This is a minute to help you understand it. It is now time to start. So I'd like to welcome you to the February 4th meeting of the Joint Operating Committee. And at this point in time, I would invite you to observe or to recite the Pledge of Allegiance and observe a moment of sound meditation. I'll turn my camera so you can see the flag better. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. At this point in time, I know it's possible that we can have people that would public to speak electronically, and I'm asking at this point if there is anyone. We have none. Oh, thank you. And at this point in time, I would ask Ms. Clementa to call a roll call, please.
Dr. Baptiste? Mr. Conrad?
Here. Here.
Mr. Gebhardt?
Here.
Mr. Hawley?
Here.
Mr. Harrison?
Here.
Mr. Jacobs?
Here.
Mr. Marburger,
Here.
Mrs. Miller,
Here.
Mr. Peterson,
Here.
Mrs. Scott,
Here.
Mr. Somerville,
I'm here.
and Mr. Vavra.
Here.
Thank you, Ms. Lemenson. I have some sad news to report. If you're not aware, Dr. Heiler had a death in the family, and the family viewing is this evening, and she is at the funeral home. So in her stead, we have Mr. Ryan, the principal, and Mr. Ryan, you have a director's report for us.
I do. Thank you, Mr. Conrad. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for attending tonight's meeting. We have two alternates present this evening, Mr. Alvin Barrow from the Butler Area School District and Dr. Michael Baptiste from the Wanata School District. Thank you for joining us. Starting off, we have two outstanding student of the months to introduce tonight. We'll have them attend in person in a later meeting whenever we're able to do so. For January, our outstanding student of the month is Jenny Helpsley. Jenny is a culinary arts student from South Butler Area School District. She is a second-year senior in the culinary arts program, and she has applied to culinary schools and is planning to pursue further education in the field and hopes to one day get a job in culinary arts. Our February student of the month is Cole Lyons. Cole is a third-year senior in our heavy equipment program from Butler Area School District. He is also a member of our National Technical Honor Society, and he hopes to work in the heavy equipment related field. Moving on, we have updates to the agenda. We've updated the school calendar, enhanced hybrid schedule, personnel, Exhibit 10A, and the buildings. Exhibit 1 is the director's newsletter. Exhibit 2 is the enrollment chart. Exhibit 3 is our attendance report. Exhibit 4 are conferences. Exhibit 5, media. We had an article in the Butler Eagle on February 25th of 2021 titled Changing Course. Skills USA is still actively exploring possibilities for our students. We have 2 health students that are preparing for the Penn COSA State Leadership Virtual Competition in April. The students are Brittany Crispin. She will be competing in veterinary technician. She is a junior from Harlem City. And Bethany Morrow. She will be competing in nursing assistant. She is a sophomore from Harlem City. We have a health assistant senior from Butler, Emma Starr, who was named one of 3 healthcare students of the year by the Butler County Healthcare Consortium. National Technical Honor Society, NTHS, is our 6th exhibit. Exhibit 7 is the 2020 graduate study. Commonwealth Charitable provides student scholarship money for program expenses that they will or have incurred. For the 2020-2021 school year, Commonwealth Charitable sent award letters to these students prior to the VOTEC sending procedure letters. For this reason, the students then purchased their program needed items, and BCABTS is working to reimburse the students for these costs. The 2021 awards program actually is collecting JOC donations for student awards. The IRS standard mileage rate for 2021 is 56 cents per mile. School was moved from online to in-person instruction, operating in our hybrid schedule since January 11th. It is administration's recommendation to move to an enhanced hybrid schedule starting the week of February the 15th until further notice on approval of Exhibit 10. On January 26th, school was closed due to inclement weather. The makeup day will be June 10th. This is Exhibit 8, the updated calendar. A committee of the whole meeting was held this evening at 6 p.m. to review the proposed budget. And the next regular JOC meeting is March 4th, 2021 at 7 p.m. And this concludes the director's report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ryan. Are there any
Thank you.
questions? Excuse me. Are there any questions for Mr. Ryan? Okay, with that in mind, may we have a motion and a second to approve the director's report? Mr. Vavro and thank you. Mr. Harrison, thank you very much. Any further discussion or questions?
I'm just going to ask, can you please send that information regarding the Butler students in an email to us so that whenever we report for our own meeting, we have that in front of us? Thank you.
Mr. Ryan, you did catch that, right? I'm not sure, right?
Yes,
Okay.
certainly sent it to you.
Very good, thank you. Okay, all in favor, say aye, please. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. May I please have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of December 17th, 2020, our reorganization and regular meetings.
So moved, Bill.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Halley, and Mr. Vavro as well. Any further questions regarding those items? Okay, all in favor, say aye, please. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. Under new business, we have a approval of donation of miscellaneous carpentry magazines. We have a request to bid for supplies and equipment for 2021 and 2022. We have federal and state funding proposals through the Perkins Act. We have NOCD and administrative tests participation, and we have the enhanced hybrid schedule as shown in Exhibit 10, as Mr. Ryan had shared before. And may I please have a motion in a second to approve those items? Mr. Vavro and Wade Holt, excuse me, Mr. Peterson, thank you very much.
Yes.
You guys are kind of small. It's kind of hard for me to see. Excuse me. Anyway.
First time I heard that description.
Feeling skinny.
Alrighty. Anyway, are there any further questions or comments regarding those items?
Can we just have a little bit of expansion on the hybrid schedule?
Sure. Mr. Ryan, would you please explain that a little better?
So the hybrid schedule, what we're proposing is that we would do something similar to what some of our sending districts have done. And that is we will be closed on Fridays, which would give us that 3-day closure to help reset our clock when it comes to the rolling COVID cases. Looking at possible closures when following the PDE guidelines. We believe that this gives us the best opportunity to have our students here as frequently as we possibly can in person. So that's why we're making this recommendation.
I just wonder, are there any districts that aren't doing that are impacted? I'm assuming most of them are going to that, I think, because of the whole calendar and getting back into the classroom first.
Park City has talked about switching from Friday off to Monday off. That way it allows the cafeteria staff to prepare food for those children that wouldn't necessarily get it over the weekend. It will provide that they would be able to take home food for the weekend. Whereas when you have the Monday on and the Friday off, preparing food for 3 days and making sure it's not going bad is less than the 2. So I just want to put that out there that Park City is weighing the options of going from the Monday off to the Friday. So.
Thank you, Mr. Somerville. Mr. Harrison?
I'm a follow-up to Bill's question. Maybe I'm just asking what's obvious, but the hybrid scheduling will not have any bearing on ADM calculations. Is that right? Just want to make sure.
Mrs. Davis, are you still with us?
I can answer that as well. It won't have any bearing in calculations. When the students are in remote, that counts for attendance on all of our district ADMs as well as VOTEC.
Yeah, I kind of assumed that. I just didn't want to presume it. So, okay, thank you.
I just had one more question. Yeah, I'm used to seeing our attendance with very, very high attendance and very little bit of missed time. And when we look at our numbers right now, obviously we're seeing a difference than the norm. And I just wondered, was there any concern regarding that? Is there any explanation on why there's lower figures in attendance? Is there a way that we're trying to follow up on that to make sure what's occurring?
So I want to just real quickly address what Mr. Harrison asked. Just to clarify for everyone, Fridays will be a remote day for us. So the students still will be participating just remotely. And to answer your question, Mr. Hawley, yes, it's been a concern. We've continued to, our Skyler system continues to make phone calls when our students are absent. Teachers have been making phone calls and utilizing our support services department and staff members to make phone calls home to parents and students to reach out to see what the issues may be. In some cases, it's a lack of good internet. In other cases, it's just that students struggle with the online learning. And in talking with your counselors, your staff members as well, in each of your districts, they're seeing a lot of similar things with the same kids that we're calling on, as far as the participation with remote learning as well. So we continue to look at what options we have to try and improve those records as well. We are implementing a new attendance reporting procedure for the students to do that we think is going to help smooth out some of that as well.
And the reason I ask, with what I do every day, there's a lot happening in homes that not everybody is aware of. And I'm asking, I haven't asked this question in my own district yet, but a lot of some of our districts, we have our own on-site mental health staff, or that maybe doing telehealth and other things, that's not part of VOTEC. Do we have any formal process for some of these students? I mean, obviously the districts at some point are getting the attendance figures and have an opportunity to follow up. I just wondered what those windows are, if there's a way to tighten it up, and if there's any type of follow-up with the VOTEC counselors. How does that come together between, so if we have a problem at Butler, and it's going to involve, that type of an on-site mental health professional, there's a process and there's a follow-up and there are people responsible and so forth. I just wondered with those kind of figures and with the concern, knowing that there's going to be a report to the districts at some point, is there any type of follow-up that you guys are making to see if those kids are having any further referrals for additional help?
Well, I don't know if Mrs. Lamenta, our guidance counselor, was actually on earlier, and I don't see her there now. Is she on, but just not?
She is off. She is off, but I know that she usually connects with the home district, the sending district, and provides the assistance needed where it's needed. She's in great communication with the guidance counselors from the sending district.
I guess I'd just like to ask, not to take any more time, if you or Gina could follow up with the districts that have that component, if it's possible to have make sure there's an understanding of how that might be a referral process. It might be able to provide some more help to these students to make sure that we're not dropping the ball.
I will discuss that with Dr. Hyder.
Thank you.
Okay.
Also, if I may, Mr. Howley, we may, we'll certainly work on this with the director, but I think we need to also think about when are children missing school? Is this only in the remote environment? Is it when we have in person? What the home districts are seeing is the temporary closures can sometimes impact the vocational school when it comes to transportation, although we've all worked very hard to get our students to the VOTEC, whether we're in session or not. But, you know, many of our students drive. We need to look a little deeper into, are our vocational students working on the days when their homeschool may be off because they're older and many of them have they have jobs beyond the vocational training program. So I think we need to first dig a little deeper into this data to figure out when are they absent? Is it only in remote? Is it in person, or is it both? And that takes some time to dig through that data.
I appreciate, that happening. I got a phone call today from a district regarding a situation, and there is so much falling through the cracks. I appreciate any follow-up just to see if we're missing it.
Bill, one of the things that hospitals found a few years ago was that a tremendous percentage of patient errors occurs during what's called handoffs. So when a patient's transferred from an ICU to a floor, or a patient goes from the floor down to X-ray, things get missed, things get dropped literally and figuratively. And that's what I hear when you're saying if something happens at the VOTEC, is it appropriately communicated and followed up on at the homeschool, or vice versa coming upstream. And I think you raise a really important point that the last thing we want is for these kids to fall through these slots and not get the help they need. So I might be so bold, Dr. Vitale, as to ask that maybe this becomes an agenda item for the supervisors meeting, just to get a sense of is this a problem here and a problem there, or is it more endemic throughout the system?
Thank you.
Any further questions or comments? Okay, with that in mind, roll call please, Mrs. Linson.
Mr. Vavro,
Yes.
Mr. Peterson,
Yes.
Mr. Conrad,
Yes.
Dr. Baptiste,
Yes.
Mr. Somerville,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mrs. Scott,
Yes.
Mr. Marburger,
Yes.
Mr. Gebhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Harrison,
Yes.
Mr. Jacobs,
Yes.
and Mr. Hawley.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you all very much. May I please have a first and a second motion for the financial reports as shown in Exhibit 11, the bill list of Exhibit, skip one. Excuse me. To approve the resignation of our health and student support contracted services. It is shown in Exhibit 10A. Mr. Vavro and Mr. Hawley. Thank you very much. Any further questions or comments? I guess I have one quick question for Mr. Ryan. Are we going out and finding a replacement for Mrs. Patterson? Or is that
That is the plan, yes.
okay, we haven't held interviews
Dr.
yet?
Holler and I briefly discussed it. We just found out 2 days ago, so
Oh,
we did discuss finding somebody else to step in that position.
okay, thank you. Any further questions or comments? Okay, roll call please, Mrs. Menza.
Mr. Vavro,
Yes.
Mr. Hawley,
Yes.
Dr. Baptiste,
Yes.
Mr. Somerville,
Yes.
Mr. Jacobs,
Yes.
Mr. Conrad,
Yes.
Mr. Gebhardt,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Peterson,
Yes.
Mrs. Scott,
Yes.
Mr. Harrison,
Yes.
and Mr. Marburger.
Yes.
Again, the motion passes. Thank you all very much. Now, going on to finance, we have the financial reports as shown in Exhibit 11. The bill is shown in Exhibit 12. And the third item is a recommendation to forward the ballots of the proposed 21-22 budget to participating school districts. As it was pointed out before us, this is not an approval of the budget per se. This is just a motion to pass the ballots on to the school boards so that they can take action and approve the budget through the school boards. With that, maybe let's have a motion in a second to approve those items. Mr. Holly and Mr. Somerville. Any questions or comments regarding those items? Okay, roll call please, Mrs. Munson.
Mr. Holly,
Yes.
Mr. Somerville,
Yes.
Mr. Vavro,
Yes.
Mrs. Scott,
Yes.
Mr. Jacobs,
Yes.
Mr. Harrison,
Yes.
Mr. Peterson,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Marburger,
Yes.
Dr. Baptiste,
Yes.
Mr. Conrad,
Yes.
and Mr. Gebhardt.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes once again. And before I ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting, does anyone have anything else they would like to share or question or ask?
Yes, Mr. Conrad, if I may.
Yes, please. Go ahead.
This is a little bit of a shady dog story, but I think it'll be of interest to the Joint Operating Committee. Miguel Cardona is the person that the new president has picked to be his Secretary of Education. And if you followed it all, you know that he came to the country from Puerto Rico with his parents in a non-English speaking family. So from the first day he went to school, he was an ESL student. They lived in my hometown, as it turns out, of Meriden, Connecticut. And they lived in projects where, when I was an ambulance provider, we often wouldn't go in without a police escort. His roots are truly deep. And as he developed, he learned how to speak English, he became an extremely good student. He actually went on to become a teacher. He taught at the school where I went to 3rd and 4th grade. He went on to become a principal and then a superintendent and eventually the commissioner of education for the state of Connecticut. The reason I share the story with you is that his high school experience in Connecticut was in a little different model than we have here. In Connecticut, the vocational schools are 4-year high schools, separated from the general high schools. And Dr. Cardona is a graduate of the Vocational-Technical school. So I share this in the optimistic hope that we've got a friend in Washington. And that hopefully, even if our governor is not tremendously supportive of enhancing the CTE concept, the Secretary of Education will be. So let's keep an eye on that.
All right. Thank you very much. Anyone else?
Don, I'm just,
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Howley.
if something else has happened that I'm not aware of, but haven't heard the word.
I'm sorry, you broke up and we didn't catch much of that, what you said.
So I'm sorry, I wondered if anything has been done collectively as a board to send our thoughts and first towards Regina.
Not that I'm aware of. Actually, that's a terrific idea, unless this is.
I would love that you propose that we put a couple dollars in the till and send something directly to her and her family for the loss.
I agree. And if anyone would be willing to call Mrs. Lavenza tomorrow to share how much they'd be willing to share and bring in, then I'll ask her to send something to represent the JOC.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that was a good thought. I have to apologize if those kinds of things sometimes escape me. But anyone else? Okay, May I please have a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting? Mr. Vavro and?
Second.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Peterson. Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you all so very much. Have a great day.
Bye.
And please don't forget to get back to Mrs. Lenz tomorrow sometime and let her know how much you're willing to commit to. Thank you.
I'll send an email out. They can respond, how about that?
That's wonderful. Thank you.
Is there a PayPal or something that can we get some money to, easier?
That's a good idea. Is there one that we can collect money that way?
I don't have one. I'll talk with Rebecca, Davis about that.
Okay, super. Thank you. All right. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, guys.
Well done, John. Yes, we are.